Hello, if you're after a fun driver's car and have between £6,000 and £7,000 to spend, you may be wondering whether to buy a 1.6 205 GTI or a slightly newer, more modern Mark III MX-5. In this video, we'll take you through both cars, compare them a little bit, and try and help you decide. So in today's Pedal Out video, we're comparing the 1989 Peugeot 205 1.6 GTI and the rear-wheel drive Mazda Mark III MX-5. Now, the price point for both of these cars, if you were to buy them now, is probably pretty similar. But in reality, these are two very different cars and almost from two different eras. So thinking about the age of this one, the newness of this one, the front-wheel drive setup on that one, and the rear-wheel drive setup on this one, let's dive in and look at the differences in a bit more detail. Let's take a closer look at the 205 first. It's no ordinary French hatchback. Everybody knows and has heard of the 205 GTI. Well, everybody's heard of the MX-5, admittedly. But the GTI badge brings that sort of extra level of excitement. It might not be a 1.9, but that 1.6 engine, 4-cylinder, 105 horsepower driving the front wheels is still very, very fun and revs very freely. The handling is agile and sharp, and thanks to its lightweight construction and tiny dimensions. Let's have a look at some of the quirks and features that make it so unique. Nice coin tray here with a push button mechanism. It should have a spring that pops it up. This one doesn't work, but it does work like that and pushes down for your coins for your parking, which you don't need anymore. So as well as this smart courtesy light, you also get this fairly neat bi-directional reading light. You can't have one, I guess these are sunroof buttons. This one doesn't have a factory sunroof, it's a dealer sunroof. That little, can't have a reading light on both sides, so only one person is reading. It also has an ashtray. It's slightly been used with a cigarette lighter. Ew.
Please subscribe to the channel.
Let's move on to the 2007 Mazda MX-5 Roadster. This is one with a hardtop roof that comes down. It's a car that has been a charming driver's car for years now, just with its nice simple sports car format. Engine at the front, rear wheel drive at the back. It's got the 2-litre engine which pumps out about 167 horsepower to the rear wheels, so it's a bit more powerful than the Peugeot. This is a balanced car, nimble driving experience. It's pure ground up sports car designed to get you excited behind the wheel. Interior of the MX-5 is a much more modern place to be. You sit lower down, it's probably does feel, certainly getting in after the 205, harder to get in, somewhat of my age, but also it's lower down. It doesn't have an ashtray in here, but it doesn't have a tape deck either. Instead it has a CD player. You get a slidey pocket here on the MX-5 with cup holders, which is super useful, which obviously you don't get on the 205. Some of the quirks of the MX-5 is buried in here somewhere. There it is the pull lever for the fuel cap. Slightly quirky. The reasons you buy an MX-5 is with a release of this lever, the roof, which retracts in 12 seconds. Oh, it's a sunny day. Done. Having these cars back to back really highlights their differences. In the 205 it's a lot more raw, visceral experience, more, dare I say, mechanical, dare I say, like a Mark 1 MX-5. There's no power steering here, there's no driver aids, there's no traction control, there's no ABS. It makes for a very, very involving drive. The Mazda, on the other hand, is more refined, it's easier to handle. Although it's got modern creature comforts like power steering, ABS brakes, traction control, you still know you're in something special, and you do have to be aware and think about driving it. You can obviously also buy a 205 GTI with a convertible. They do a convertible version. They're a bit cheaper actually. They're called the CTI. I'm not sure how much more stability it would offer you though, with the design from the 80s. You can pick these cars up. Good MX-5 Mark 3s, 2 litres, between £5,000 and £6,000. Very, very similar pricing to a 1.6 well-spec 205 GTI. Obviously this is an older car, you're going to need to budget probably for a few more repairs, and you probably might find spares are a little harder to find than they are with the MX-5. Something to be aware of. Even pop into the shops is lots of fun. Every corner, every bend, no matter how fast you're going, slow as you like, you're driving this car, you know about it, you can feel it. It's not easy peasy. You have to be switched into it, switched on. It's probably not as much fun poodling around at low speeds as the 205 GTI is. Reliability is also a serious consideration. The great thing about the MX-5, and it fixed all those foibles and niggles that people had with 50s and 60s British sports cars, was the MX-5. Mazda reliability sorted all of that out. I have to say, a 30-plus-year-old French hatchback car is probably not going to offer you the same levels of reliability. In fact, this one did break down on me recently. We had to get recovered.
Flashback.
There was a odd loose wire, I'm not quite sure which one it was, under the bonnet, which resolved the problem. It basically wouldn't start, but inconvenient nonetheless, and certainly something to seriously consider and think about. Put the stats for the 205 up on the screen, but about 115 brake horsepower driving the front wheels. You do get a bit of torque steer when you're gunning it. About 8.7 to 60, top speed 120 miles an hour. I would dream of doing that these days. And you've got a 5-speed manual box. I've already mentioned there's no power steering. And the weight, well, comes in just under 900 kilos. This is a very light car. Whereas the weight of the Mazda MX-5 is a bit heavier. It's still a light car. They come in, depending on how much fuel you've got on board, between 1100 and 1200 kilos. Still a few people heavier than the 205. Then you'd expect that. Also got airbags, gas inside impact protection, etc. Still a 4-cylinder engine. This is a 2-litre. I think it's got about 160 brake horsepower. Stats on the screen. 0 to 60 in about 7.5 seconds, and apparently top speed of about 138 rear-wheel drive. I don't quite. 132 top speed. Feels like a lot. 205 is really for somebody who wants a classic but isn't prepared to go all the way back to the 50s and 60s. This is, for me anyway, the epitome of a modern classic. They're so well renowned in the motoring press and have been for such a long time. So is the MX-5, admittedly, but the 205 GTI, when anybody ever asks the best top hatch of all time, 205 GTI is there again and again and again, always alongside the Golf GTI, but the 205 GTI is always there. The 1.6, don't be fooled, it might have slightly less power than the 1.9, but it's still a lot of fun. They are a little bit cheaper and they still rev really well. For the money, what you get is modern, reliable, rear-wheel drive, open-top sports car motoring. So if that's your bag, then you know you're all set. The boot is pretty spacious as well. You definitely get more room in the boot of the 205, but that's to be expected. It's a hatchback, obviously got back seats. This 205 GTI has an aftermarket Miltec exhaust, and it just makes the engine sing. It adds to the driving experience. The noise from this car is much better than the MX-5s. So that sort of swings it for me, but it's a close call, right? Because with an exhaust, I think the MX-5, an aftermarket exhaust, would really come alive. I think it was in one of Auto Alex's recent videos where Taylor said MX-5 is a great car, the Mark III, the NC version, but they do need to be tweaked and modified slightly. The sound from the MX-5 as stock, although this car's very capable, it is lacking a bit of drama and raspiness. It's a little bit too quiet, a little bit too refined, a little bit too, dare I say, Japanese. Too much like a sewing machine when it really could be a little beefier. So which one would you choose? Well, it's a difficult one. I think you've got to sum these things up. So Peugeot 205 is obviously a lot older. So although the price points may be the same, this is an older car. I mentioned this before, your running costs in terms of maintenance and parts probably going to be a little bit more, possibly your insurance maybe a little bit more, but if you get it on a classic policy being over 30 years old, that might be not such a problem. You do also get over the MX-5, which is a kind of a massive plus point, I suppose. I'm going to say 2 plus 2, it's not 2 plus 2. This car has back seats, which is an advantage if you need back seats. So you can go to a classic car show locally with all of your family, not just your other half or one child. Alright, thanks for watching this pedal out video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget, if you haven't done, subscribe to the channel, write in the comments, tell us what you think. Plenty more car videos on the channel for you to watch. Subscribe, hit the bell icon. We'll see you again very soon. Cheers.